Hello there, Madsplainers listeners. Chris Lay here, co-host of the Corner Table podcast with Cap Times food editor Lindsay Christians. I'm hijacking your feed to share the first episode of an exciting new project that we've been working on called Reopening Sardine. This episode centers on our interview with Sardine co-owners John Gadau and Phillip Hurley, who are looking back on what the previous months of the pandemic were like for them and their staff. Later episodes will feature interviews with other key players, candid audio from staff meetings, interviews with devoted customers that were recorded the day that Sardine reopened, and so much more. We really hope that you enjoy this unique look behind the curtain at one of our personal favorite restaurants in town. If you want more, you can find those follow-up episodes by subscribing to The Corner Table on whatever podcast player you're listening to right now. So without any further delay, here's Reopening Sardine, Episode 1.
Hello! Welcome to The Corner Table, Reopening Sardine, a limited 5-episode series of The Corner Table, a podcast about food and drink in Madison, Wisconsin. The Corner Table is produced and hosted by me, Lindsay Christians, Cap Times food editor.
And me, Chris Lay, occasional Cap Times contributor and the podcast operations manager for Lee Enterprises.
As much as I love to cook, I have missed going to restaurants. Chris, you've missed going to restaurants too.
Absolutely.
If you're listening to this, I have no doubt that you have also missed going to restaurants.
Thankfully, nationwide vaccination efforts mean restaurants are beginning to reopen at increased capacity, with increased assurances of safety for diners, their staff, and especially the community at large.
When quarantine kicked in last spring, we refocused the Corner Table to examine and document effects the pandemic was having across so many facets of food service. Now, as we emerge from that, we're getting ready to close the book on that dismal chapter.
We decided to take a deep dive into what it means to reopen a restaurant that's been closed for over a year. You know, what goes into cleaning, rehiring, and rethinking everything from the food on the menu to how late you're open. And the challenge of making sure every diner feels safe.
To illustrate that process, we decided to focus on Sardine, one of our favorite shared places in Madison.
We chose Sardine for a handful of reasons. Obviously, there's the food, the service, and its beloved brunch menu. But Sardine was also one of just a handful of places that never transitioned to delivery, they didn't put out a patio, and they ignored the ghost kitchen trend, which adds an interesting layer worth exploring.
Many restaurants are having trouble finding staff right now, even more than they did pre-pandemic, but Sardine has managed to retain several dozen employees, many of whom have been with the company for a decade or more. We thought in an industry known for high turnover, that retention spoke to the kind of workplace it is.
For this first episode, we interviewed Sardine's co-owners John Gadau and Phillip Hurley about what it was like to shut down for over a year. In future episodes, we'll sit in on staff meetings and check in with the kitchen, bartenders, servers, and managers to find out what their COVID year was like.
We'll take you to Sardine on the reopening day. It'll be a glimpse of what dining could look like as we emerge slowly and as safely as we can from this restaurant drought.
We are extremely excited about everything that you're going to hear for this series. Please make sure that you're subscribed so you get all the future installments that'll be coming out over the next several weeks.
Without any further delay, here is our initial interview recorded in mid-April with John Gadau and Phillip Hurley.
Real quick, can we get, just an introduction, say your name, and then, this is the sound of my voice?
Phillip Hurley, this is my voice.
John Gadau. We're here in Gates and Brovey dining room.
How long has it been since this dining room was open?
It's been over a year. It was one of those things where we were actually going to do, we have a big St. Patty's Day thing, and I remember talking to the guy who leads up this Irish band, and we were thinking, are we going to do this thing? And we both sort of had concerns about what was, should we, is it smart? Is it the right thing to do? And I remember at one point we were like, yeah, no, it's probably not a good thing to do. And
As the black clouds
literally,
make its way to the Midwest.
and this was
you know?
maybe 2 weeks prior to them showing up. Yeah, no St. Patty's Day.
No.
Anywhere
For
in
2
the country.
years. For two St. Patty's Days.
Yeah, right.
Or at least not here. Other places have tried.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
might have been
For
St. Patty's
better
Day.
or worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there any clear-cut moment where you knew like this is gonna be? Was it any one like another restaurant that like threw it in, or a news thing, or like what was it that really tipped that?
For me, I remember hearing in the news that Ohio State had closed their campus. We knew it was coming, right? But when Ohio State went, oh man, it's happening like that quickly, you know? And we were talking, said, well, this is what's happening. And that was maybe, I don't remember, a week or two before, you know, or a week before. But every day was like 3 days, it seemed like, you know, when this was happening. And we were getting the feeling on a Thursday, and we were all doing, you know, all the restaurants are, you know, using their sanitation stuff, and we're all doing this, wearing gloves behind the bar, which is kind of craziness. And because everything was tactile at that point, right? They were saying you can't touch things. And then we knew that this was not good. And then we came down, we left Sardine, and we were coming down here, and Sardine was already starting to not be quite as busy. And then we came down here, and it was jammed packed, like a party before the ship's gone down, sort of thing.
Well, right, and then
It was
we had people who were calling and saying how irresponsible we were by having all these people in the restaurant. And again, we were trying to play by we were trying to play by the rules. This was all happening so fast. Yeah, we had gloves and sanitation stuff all over the place, but there wasn't any
Just
occupancy rule or anything like that. It was but it was like palpable. I mean, it was like everywhere. And we kind of like felt like, okay, well, you know, this is definitely doesn't feel right, and you know, we're getting a lot of weird vibes from the neighborhood, and maybe we should tone it down. And then at some point, we kind of had to assess things after that night.
We sat here and we said, are we going to open for brunch here or not? And this was Sunday, right?
Yeah.
And we said, we just said, no, we're done. We didn't want. We didn't know
there's no other way.
We just thought, we don't want to attract people to come and hang out together when this thing is like, you know, ricocheting, you know, off of people in their lives. And we knew that responsibility was ours, and we thought this is going to really hurt, and we don't know how bad it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt our employees. We're shutting.
Yeah.
It's like shutting down a locomotive that's filled with stuff, you know, and then telling the staff. We told them we had unanimous support from everyone. No one wanted to work. Everyone was afraid.
What we really didn't quite digest was the aftermath of shutting down, three really busy restaurants, and the amount of waste and the amount of food and the amount of everything, like Phillip was saying. I mean, it's like a freight train that's going 100 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden it stops, and everything behind it, which is purveyors, food, bills, rent, payroll taxes is behind that, and it's just like piling up, it just all comes up front. We're like, holy cow.
It was.
It's just like crazy, and you don't realize what kind of and restaurants are kind of this hand-to-mouth thing. So if it stops, the engine stops, then it's crazy what the aftermath is.
Our coolers of all three restaurants have been empty for a year, basically. And so to restart that engine, it almost seems like there's hundreds of products. There's pickled things, there's fermenting things, there's potatoes, there's all this stuff. Yeah. It's hard to even imagine.
Yeah, even the frozen stuff now, as we're reopening Sardine, and assessing all this stuff, we're essentially throwing away this stuff. I mean, we did as much as we could to dole it out to our staff, in care packages, and we took probably 12 trips over to Goodwill, to unload bread and
80
and
cases
perishable
of
stuff.
product.
And
We took it over to the pantry.
and we literally, we packed so much into our freezer that you couldn't even, once you open up the door, you can't even, you couldn't even stick your arm in it. But again, all that stuff has been turned into some sort of loss,
Did you monetize that loss? Do you know how much it was?
Well, it's in the thousands.
Tens of thousands.
Yeah,
of just the product,
Just
not
the
counting
food,
rent, not
yeah.
counting
And it's
payroll,
funny,
not counting
if our cooler had gone down and everything was spoiled in there, our insurance would have covered that. But we don't have it. This it was this portion of this pandemic was not part of our insurance policy. So.
Just to give people a sense of what the train was like before it stopped,
Yeah.
Can you give us a little introduction to Sardine and to your restaurants here in Madison too? Give us a little sense of where you started and sort of where you were by the time the pandemic came along.
Should we start with what, Marigold? Do I just go to
Sure.
where it all began?
We could go to where we met in Chicago.
Yeah.
How's
Where did
that?
you meet in Chicago?
Well, we were in Wrigleyville, which is north of the city, kind of off of Clark Street, like literally about 2 blocks away from Wrigley Field. And we both lived in a 3-flat, just literally across Clark Street on a street called Patterson. And Phillip was working in a kitchen, and I was working in a kitchen, so we were both in the biz.
And then I don't know. It was like a snow day, wasn't there? Something like it was a crazy
Yeah, it was a snow
snowstorm.
day, yeah.
And my wife and I lived upstairs. We came down to John, and it was his girlfriend, now wife at the time. And we came down and we had some beers together. We talked, and at some point we look at each other. He's like, "So what do you like to do? What do you like to cook? I mean, what are you all about?" It was sort of uncanny. His experience. He was in L.A. at the very same time that I was in San Francisco, and he was working with some great chefs down there, and I was working with great chefs in San Francisco area, and so we had that in common right away, that kind of cooking, right? That sort of French-trained, beautiful local products. And
and then we actually were like, well, why don't we do something? He was married, and I think your son Griff was probably two or three,
yeah.
and I was engaged and, to be married that summer. And so we were kind of looking for some kind of change. And then at some point, after looking at spaces in Chicago and just kind of like not really finding anything, and tossing around the idea of coming up to Madison, we hadn't really committed, but it was out there. And then I remember
I got to jump in here because my emotions were part of this.
Yeah, right.
I was in the pantry of the restaurant I was working at, and I had called them, and I was just saying, like, all right, I'm like committing. I'm the one with the child at this point. I'm like, I got to support my family.
A little more.
And I said,
plate. Yeah.
all right, we moved to Madison. We do breakfast, lunch place. We don't kill ourselves working nights, and we have all these. Apparently, all these farms are around there, and we're gonna move up to Madison. And
Madison
do this.
was like rated the 10 best places to live.
Yeah,
in the
we were like,
country at
this
that
is,
point. Yeah.
and I knew he knew more about Madison than I did, actually. I'd only been here like once before that, in college or something. And
yeah, let's do it.
it was, I remember being like, yeah, this is it. We got a plan.
Yeah. So we found that space, and
Yeah, we found this space in the Block 89 and thought that'd be perfect for a breakfast lunch place, and
and
that started.
And then 5 years later, Sardine.
Yes, 5 years
Yeah.
later, yeah.
Yeah.
we both seen
Machinery
Row building, and we knew that thing was available. We knew it was like this awesome space on the lake, and at some point we're like, I was like, dude, what would be like the perfect space for you? And you said, the Machinery Row, and it was obvious that we were both into them.
And then it took about 2 years from that point to actually open it. So
Yeah.
we were talking in 2004. and then didn't open until 2006.
Yeah, right.
Sardine was bigger and
Sardine was scope. Yeah, it was bigger.
On every level.
Yeah, way bigger. And we wanted it to be kind of a city, kind of a bigger experience, and like we're taking people somewhere not of Madison necessarily. It was a beautiful space, and it was a big, ambitious thing, and I think people were like, "Whoa!"
Like, I mean, it's obviously a step up in a lot of ways. Would you classify it as like fine dining, or
what do you say? Could be considered fine dining.
Ridiculous terms. It doesn't really fit anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. But it's middle of the road. I mean, it's not gonna crush your wallet by coming in. We wanted to make it
it's not too fancy.
Really, really accessible, and also just service-wise too. Make it all inclusive. Not try to intimidate anybody. Try not to have this aura of stuffy kind of this place. I mean, just make it really welcoming and appeal to everyone.
Yeah.
And we'd have people in there with suits or in shorts.
Yeah, just coming off the Bagaloo,
whatever,
so it's a whole. I mean, that's what we wanted.
Yeah.
And it was sort of harkens back to where we worked out in some of the places in California that had that same sort of anyone can show up, anyone can be. It doesn't matter. You just what you want to do is you want to enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And it's even better when you're in a. Heading to the Frosty Ball or something, and you're in your tux, and you're next to someone who's, wearing jeans and whatever. It doesn't matter.
This podcast is sponsored by Exact Sciences, a leading provider of cancer screening and diagnostic tests. To learn more, visit exactsciences.com.
There were restaurants at the beginning of the pandemic who just laid everybody off right away. There were restaurants who tried to hold on to their staff even though they didn't have work for them because everything was closed.
Yeah.
When, in those early weeks of the pandemic, how were you communicating with your staff and what were you hearing from them? What kind of feedback were you getting from them about how they were doing?
Well, yeah, we had a lot of back and forth because we still didn't really know the extent of how long we were going to be closed. There was a lot of talk about unemployment and how people were going about getting that and how much of a pain in the butt it was to get it. And from our end too, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, from a restaurant owner standpoint. But I think we just thought, one, we didn't want to burn anybody out. We didn't want to open it up and put people in harm's way.
First and foremost, that was it.
No
one really wanted to work.
Yeah, nobody wanted to work.
You mean we're not going to open? No, they didn't want to come.
And we're not going to call them in to work 2 shifts and go off on employment. And at the time, it just seemed like, the best scenario was to just let these guys, live off that. And we didn't know how long it was going to go at that point, but it seemed like a kind of nice alternative to,
It was painful. We had a meeting with all the leadership of the 3 restaurants down at Sardine and basically told them what we were doing and why, and that we really can't help you. I mean, literally, we don't have. Our payrolls are giant, right? I mean, they are big. It's the main thing what you do, and then you have no income to do that. Not only that, you have payroll that you're still paying for, 2 weeks, or we had almost 2 weeks of payroll to pay with no income and rent and every expense you can think of, plus all of our purveyors that we owe money to. So it quickly goes into hundreds of thousands of dollars with no revenue. And I don't know if anyone really fully understands that you can go from doing quite well to being woefully in debt. To a point where you're crazy. And so that was maybe the most heartbreaking thing, is that you've always been leaders and owners that are trying to figure out how to do it even better for everyone. And at that point, we can't. And that doesn't go just for them, but for every single person that ended up getting laid off. We knew it was going to be a while at that point. I mean, it wasn't going to be, when we really shut down and talked to her, I remember Susan, our general manager, was like, how long do you think? And I remember thinking, And everybody else was kind of stretching it too. I go, like July, August. And that was like blown away, because we had plans then.
Yeah.
We kept monitoring the situation, and we thought, well, gosh, if we get on top of this, they're talking about late spring, early summer, and then we thought, let's think about a late summer to start bringing them back.
We just kind of thought at the end of the day, and this was really before we really understood how long it was going to go, that it would be, it's sort of apples to apples, like you're gonna open, you're gonna dish out a lot of money, you're gonna put your staff at harm's way, you're probably not gonna make any money. If anything, you're gonna lose money. If you don't, right? The caveat is that you may lose some staff. You're not forcing your staff to come back and work. They don't want to.
We're talking from 165 people to bring 7 back.
And maybe you end up with the same thing, and maybe you're actually in a better situation by not opening. Every restaurant's in a different situation, and luckily, we had that option even, to go.
And there wasn't any guidance, from bureaucracies. I mean, there wasn't, governmental whatever outside.
The opposite, right?
Yeah,
it was the opposite. It was more antagonistic, and you felt like what we thought might be coming down the pike to be relief, you knew was not going to come, and that light you thought would come never showed up.
Yeah,
never showed up.
I know that there were, organizations that kind of popped up to unify a lot of the actual staff, but were there any lines of communication amongst various, chef, owner, restaurateur within the city talking about things, or was it pretty much everyone just kind of doing their own thing and trying to?
I'm sure there were chefs that were in contact, and we were in contact with some. But as time kept going on, it was just sort of became more time between even, maybe communicating staff. You thought we were going to stay in touch, and all of a sudden it just goes and goes and goes, and then even the contacts that we had with some other chefs or the people probably were less, but would be, sporadic.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times where we would just meet and go, I hope we're doing the right thing. I mean, then we'd be like, we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But we were constantly weighing, when is this going to end, and what consequences by fully shutting down? Even though we thought we got to hold on to any capital we have, and we want to have an option of reopening.
I got the sense, when I spoke to you guys last summer, that you were trying to listen to what people had to say, that you were thinking about as we're considering reopening, what kind of feedback can we take from staff so that they feel safe, so they feel ready to come back. Mm-hmm. I wonder, sort of going into the fall, at the end of the summer last year, going into the fall, was there a point where you were like, okay, it's going to be another 6 months? How did anything change for you at that point when you sort of realized it was going to be a while?
Well, I think we knew that it was going to be a brutal winter, for one, and we knew it was definitely not going to get any better. I think there was a time when, it really kind of all dawned on us, and kind of it sank in that, we're probably not going to open until spring.
We had an outdoor meeting in Sardine's parking lot, and we did it with Marigold. The Marigold we did much earlier, actually, because we knew that downtown was done, and the idea of trying to, and for other reasons, we knew that we were putting that to bed, and that we were just going to bring that back when we could. And so that was brutal to tell all of them. And these are people who've worked for us since we started. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of them. And that was brutal. And then we had met with everyone. It was just like a pretty rough few days, basically, looking at our staff and saying, this isn't going to happen until spring. And we knew that probably in July, because we knew there's no reason to open up in the winter. And we did other little functions. We did some catering things, but nothing to any scale. And it was, we emptied the rosé, pretty much our rosé that we knew was going to be good by the time we opened.
Oh yeah,
so
it
turned into we spread out over the whole parking lot and just drank a lot of wine.
Oh, yeah.
And there was tears,
and
it was very sad.
Double shots of bourbon and that sort of thing.
Yeah. It was.
I mean, it was kind of a release. And,
it was.
It was super sad, and that was that was Sardine, but Marigold. I mean, sitting down with these guys outside and telling these guys, especially Marigold, some of these guys were working with us since 19 years, and saying like, you guys just go ahead and get new jobs because we can't, we don't know, we can't tell you what to do, but we're not going to be open.
Yeah.
That's just it's brutal, and not everyone.
And it's not like it's your fault. It's not like
exactly.
No,
and
there's no one to be frustrated
and
with.
That's what we're telling to Antonia or these guys have been working for us for so long.
Who've looked up
who are
to
like
us, and we've
crying, and we're like it's not our fault. And it's not our fault. And apologizing for it. It's crazy. I never would have thought that this would have been the case. And restaurants would have been so vulnerable to something like this, but it was. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy, and it makes you almost not want to be in this business.
Yeah.
After something like this, but restaurants are such a a fabric of a community, and they bring people together. I think we have kind of a there's like a mission that we have to reopen, and to be kind of the bearers of this joyful sort of celebration when things get back to normal.
So you're getting ready to reopen now, and I wonder what it's been like to bring folks back, to be calling up employees, to be getting the gang back together, and also like on a mechanical level, what does it mean to reopen a restaurant that's been closed for a year?
Well,
it's truly like opening up another restaurant, right? I mean, it's opening a new restaurant, even though.
But we purchased all this stuff.
We have
electrical and plumbing.
All the infrastructure.
That's
here.
good.
Yeah, we got our dishwasher. We got our HVAC.
The interior design.
We got our hoods. Yeah, but it's really great. I mean, it was a struggle, but I mean, it's a really kind of happy and joyful thing, to call these guys up and to get excited about redoing it, to have staff that has been kind of in limbo or maybe thought about doing something else, but has made the commitment to come back. Obviously, Sardine's been closed since day one of the pandemic, so that is super exciting. Coming in here and seeing Tim rearrange the furniture and now has all the tables set up. That's kind
exciting
of a positive thing
yeah,
too,
it
as
is.
well.
It's like these little victories.
Yeah. But it's exciting thinking about doing restaurant. Thinking about the restaurant and cooking, and all the things that you never were able to get to, or were always thinking about inefficiencies or ways of doing things, and now we have this opportunity to retweak the menu, retweak how we do things. Is really exciting.
I think we've talked about this a lot. It's really a chance to communicate in every way better with our staff, with our chefs and our managers, and to be able to rethink all those little things. And it comes down to having just an incredibly open, transparent communication to say, hey, because sometimes as owners you're like looking and you're sort of like to each other go, God, why are we doing that? And then it's just the thing's so big and moving, it's hard to like stop it. Well, it stopped. It would be ridiculous if we didn't seriously think, and we've been doing that over the year, about all those little things that could change the culture, that could give a better workplace for everyone, to a better, smarter way that we can take care of the money that we maybe were leaking away by inefficiencies. They need money. We all need this money more than ever. And so we're really concentrating on that.
Right, exactly. I mean, absolutely thinking about how we can better take care of our staff. being a little more compassionate to, what goes on, having this sense of, caring about our guys, caring about our customers. You're just lucky to be back, but it makes you, care about your staff more, and maybe give them a better place to work, maybe, give them more of a living wage, pay them better, everybody. I mean, that's the idea.
And we thought we always were pushing for that, always, I have to say, because that was at the top of how we ran our businesses. But when everything's taken away and everyone's exposed and are so vulnerable that, we can only think of how to do it better. It's just like, it's not fair, and so we have to be smarter and really think what we can do that ensures them more security,
But with that comes a new way of looking at how to do things, In this case, having a smaller menu, maybe being more efficient, doing things differently that are easier to put out, but yet it's not losing anything, not so much, have a giant menu where you have this cooler just packed full of stuff, and it just makes for a difficult place to work, or you've got so much prep that everybody's just busting their
behind the eight ball
butt, to get
just
things done, and your labor's really high because for whatever reason, your menu's super ambitious, and you don't need all that.
Are there things that make Sardine that you think you could never change, that are essential to who and what the restaurant is?
The roll mops.
There you go. I don't know. Yeah, we got to get more of
are you talking about
those.
Food
Those
items,
might still be good.
Are you talking about?
I mean, I'll take them off your hands if they're not.
Yeah.
I think when I think of Sardine, I think of it a joyful place where we have hired kind people, and we do that at Gates Barovia and Marigold. We first and foremost look for just the nicest people we can that want to serve other people and have a high hospitality quotient. Food can come and go. Yeah, I mean, people could say the steak frites or the mussels or anything. Of course, those aren't going to go anywhere. But it's the bigger picture of like who we are and how open we are, and the kind of as John was saying earlier, like this is for everyone, and there's no air or arrogance in our place, or that's what Sardine. Come and enjoy the fun and the beautiful space in the lake and generosity, I think.
You guys are in one of the better positions in town, from my understanding, where you have, I mean, like 99% of your staff is returning? To where, people are going to walk in and
99.
It might be 97. I don't know.
It's still
but it's a high. It's a high.
Very high by comparison.
So that's we're so fortunate.
We're so
and excited because it's like we do. Don't want to overuse the idea of family, but it truly is a fun family sort of environment when you see people that you've known for so many years, and then you don't see them, and you just think, God, is anyone going to come back? Or we know, and then we're sort of like, putting out feelers. Well, they're thinking they want to come back, and they're asking about it, but I haven't heard from them or this, and then to sort of put it out to our kitchen, to the front of the house, and to see the response, it's a great feeling. That's a happy part of the story.
But it also, I mean, when you talk about, the spirit of the place and so much of it belonging, or because of the staff. I mean, so many places, my favorite places around town, I'm going to go and it's going to be different. Because there's going to be different faces. Whereas I feel like I'm going to be able to walk into Sardine and, be served by some of the same people that were there before in a way that is really unique to you guys.
Yeah, and
we're fortunate.
And fortunate, and also a great opportunity for these guys to be the ambassadors of welcoming people back into the restaurant. They're going to be, it's going to be like the easiest thing to do to make people happy, and what a great position to be in.
Are there any things you're worried about?
Worried about?
How much time do we have?
Yeah, right. You know what?
The interview starts now.
Yeah. Okay, we got a list here. I don't know. I mean, but think about it. It's like speaking for myself, I feel we're a little numb to what's happened, right? I mean, I think this is really positive. We don't want to sit there and get caught up into worry. Worry was, March through January. I mean, now it's like we are trying to just stay very optimistic with the idea, it's weird to reopen like this opening restaurant with the idea that you're trying to constrain what you think you can do. We hope we're busy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the worry. Yeah. We hope that this thing is on its way out for good.
Well, yeah, we're worried about, another pandemic. I mean, we're worried about, how vulnerable we are as a community, as a restaurant community. I mean, when we do reopen, that there'll be plenty of people that will totally want to come to our joint. There'll be people who are, who don't care and have never cared. There'll be people who are vaccinated, who are totally ready to go out, but then there'll be a psychological aspect that will last for years, probably. So even when we're at 100%, I don't think we'll ever be back to where we were prior to the pandemic. So that's altered, probably, the restaurant forever.
We're shell-shocked. I mean, I think that you can't get away with the idea is that we're excited and we think it's opening, and there's plenty of places around the country that are wide open right now and have been for a little while, or at least in the way they're behaving or conducting themselves. But yeah, we just want to make sure that it actually gets really busy again. To get back, because it's so fun. Yeah, we do this because it's just a joy, and it's like an absolute riot to walk into a place when it's busy and people are having fun and you're seeing people and your kitchen's thumping. It's just, we want that back,
And who knows? It might. And I think once people kind of touch the flame and realize that they really are just dying to get back to their life and they're ready to scrap all the anxiety and the worry, that it will happen, and we'll be back in the roaring 20s again.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I feel good about this.
I do too, yeah.
All right.
This has been The Corner Table, Reopening Sardine. The Corner Table is a podcast about food and drink in Madison, Wisconsin, produced by the Capital Times. Patrick Christians composed our music. Eric Lawrenson edits the show. Links to any relevant content, as well as ways you can contact us directly, can be found in the show notes.
Did you enjoy this first episode? You did? Then you will for sure love all the episodes that we've got lined up. So make sure that you're subscribed on whatever app you use so that you can get every new episode delivered as fast as we can serve them up.
If this was your introduction to The Corner Table, there are well over 100 episodes for you to discover, where we explore every nook and cranny in the world of food and drink in Madison. For the next episode here, we're talking to staff as they get ready to